Painting, sculpture and digital experiences. We've got art in all its dimensions coming up in today's show. We're starting with a very prestigious arrival at the Musée d'Orsay here in Paris. Gustave Caillebotte's boating party is now part of France's national collection thanks to a donation from luxury goods giant LVMH. It paid 43 million euros for the impressionist masterpiece. Catherine Kadir-Clifford has more.
It's a well-oiled routine.
That's the tricky part. Security is a priority when we transport the works, as there's a risk of them falling.
Since it was rolled into the Musée d'Orsay's underground passageways, it has been coddled. France acquired the painting thanks to sponsorship from luxury goods giant LVMH, which splashed out 43 million euros to buy the painting from Gustave Caillebotte's descendants.
The boat party, which is one of his last masterpieces in private hands, preserved by direct descent in the artist's family, was one of the most coveted. It is therefore a great victory that we are celebrating today, that of having been able to preserve this heritage masterpiece in France.
Up on the 5th floor, the team has given it pride of place, surrounded by impressionist masterpieces.
I'm not quite sure about the frame's position. It looks good at the top. Seeing it finally here as part of our collection, part of the national collection, interacting with our other impressionist works, it's really a delight.
It's 1870 and boating has become a popular pastime on the rivers outside the capital. But the way that Gustave Caillebotte represented this high society hobby on canvas was radical.
There's a notion of capturing a precise moment, and then almost a kind of brutality in the way that he places the viewer in the scene, in the heart of the painting. He does this with an immersive effect, by cutting out the edges of the composition, the rower's legs, the oars, to really place us in the middle of the boat, as though we were sitting facing the subject.
The second boat at the top right-hand corner accentuates this immersion effect, giving the viewer the feeling both boats must have two passengers and that they are aboard the first. This framing was radically modern for the time and would go on to influence photography and cinema.
The network of trade routes which used to connect the Far East to the Mediterranean is well known as the Silk Road. But some of the destinations along it are not necessarily household names. A new exhibition at the Louvre here in Paris aims to change that with a special focus on Uzbekistan. The splendours of Uzbekistan's oases takes visitors on an eye-opening journey through some 180 artefacts, showcasing an intellectual, cultural and artistic centre at the crossroads of India, China and Iran. Emerald Maxwell reports.
It's among the most ancient cities in Central Asia. Samarkand in southeastern Uzbekistan, known as the Blue City, is famed for its palaces and mosques and was once the capital of a gigantic empire founded by Timur in the 14th century. An exhibition at the Louvre traces 19 centuries of Uzbekistan's history. The country is located at the crossroads of the ancient Silk Road, between China and Kyrgyzstan to the east and the Caspian Sea to the west. These sumptuous statues bear witness to that melting pot of civilizations so characteristic of Uzbek art.
It's a harmonic mixture of all these influences. In these magnificent sculptures, we see the distant legacy of Alexander the Great and the Greek statues, but the faces are like Buddha's. It's a good example of the mingling of cultures and religions.
The exhibition includes this 11-meter-wide mural. Composed of several pieces that have been put back together, it dates from the 7th century and features a procession with an elephant, horsemen and geese destined to be sacrificed. Most of these national treasures have never before left Uzbekistan. French and Uzbek specialists collaborated to restore dozens of them. The Louvre is leading archaeological excavations in Bukhara in southern Uzbekistan, an oasis once crisscrossed by traders. The 13-year-long dig has been fruitful.
We have excavated cemeteries. palaces. Tools used by traders, for instance, a spoon fork that could be folded up and put in your pocket.
This is a digital reconstruction of the fortified city of Araksha. The excavations allowed archaeologists to virtually reproduce some of its buildings, including this palace, which housed the room where 7 murals were found, showing a king and his entourage riding elephants and fighting tigers, another of Uzbekistan's marvels.
Now, we all know the rules in museums. Look, but don't touch. However, this next exhibition in Lille, in the north of France, is asking visitors to do quite the opposite. The idea is to allow people to develop their senses while they appreciate the artwork on show. James Facina tells us more.
What's usually banned in museums is being strongly encouraged.
So it's a woman?
Yes, it looks like it.
It's in fact been turned into a rule to touch every part of the sculptures, in every detail, all while covering your eyes, instead discovering the works with your fingertips.
We definitely pay more attention to the detail, the surfaces, and ultimately the artist's work.
There's an arm, a head. I think it's a person. It's fun to touch, to feel what it's made of.
Created together with visually impaired collaborators, the appropriately named Please Touch exhibition aims to get everyone to awaken their senses and spend more time appreciating the sculptures.
The maximum time that visitors generally spend looking at a work of art is 14 seconds, and that's already quite a lot. But here we see that they spend 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes.
It feels like hair.
These replicas are made of resin. Rodin's original marble sculpture is still upstairs.
If hundreds of thousands of visitors touched the original, it would lose its whiteness. Even if we were to use hand gel, the acidity of our hands and the dirt would damage the works, and future generations would be left with a wreckage.
Samples of the originals are available to feel.
To be honest, it makes me want to touch the rest of it.
And that's why the touching room is attracting visitors, as it's set to continue its tour of 6 museums all across France.
Now to an experience for fans of French gentleman thief Arsène Lupin. The Opéra Garnier here in Paris is hosting a new immersive game inspired by the famous literary character. It allows players to become the protagonists of their own investigation, solving a mystery or two in real time. Jenny Shin takes us behind the scenes.
Imagine one of the most beautiful monuments in Paris as a playground. The Opéra Garnier is transformed into a sublime, life-size setting for a treasure hunt. Within its gilded walls, behind its sculptures, lie clues to help solve the unfinished investigation of the famous Arsène Lupin.
Le comte de Cagliostro aurait caché, avec l'aide de Charles Garnier lui-même, une pierre philosophale, ici, dans le Palais Garnier.
The mission begins on the grand staircase. The players have an hour and a half to solve the mystery.
Derrière la barbe fournie de son décorateur, il n'est pas décorateur, lui il est compositeur.
Another challenge is to navigate around the different floors. An opportunity to rediscover the story in the footsteps of Lupin, but also to discover the rich history of the opera house, spanning more than 350 years.
The project was really to bring a new audience here to the Palais Garnier, an audience that is interested in the building and in discovering history, but not necessarily in the traditional way.
To find the next clue, the budding detectives carefully scrutinize the ceiling.
Oui, bien joué.
The allegories in each of these medallions hide precious hints.
It's like a voyage through the opera, the enigma, and the pleasure of watching people play and share.
The mystery is solved when the treasure is found. But the most beautiful treasure of all here at the Paris Opera is the one before your eyes.
Finally, to two Catalan artists who've become 20th century icons celebrated for their singular styles. Salvador Dali and Antoni Gaudí transformed attitudes to painting and architecture. Their work's now been given the immersive treatment at the Bassin des Lumières in Bordeaux. It's a luminous trip through modernism and surrealism, all set to a Pink Floyd soundtrack. We'll leave you with a taste. Otherwise, do check out our website for more arts and culture. We're on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.